I would like to share with you my opinion about the importance of what we are doing. Frankly, I'm a little bit shaken from the last presentation, because the last presentation have told me to what extent the professors win at the end. I'm talking about the professors of accounting. I didn't realize, sorry, I read Akira Morita's book, Made in Japan, and that's why Yuji is absolutely right. When he asked me about the supply chain, I said that the teacher for the supply chain, not for manufacturing, for me is Akira Morita, not Taiichi Ohno. Not that I'm downplaying Taiichi Ohno. You all know that in my eyes is a huge giant. But one of the things that shaped me already back in 1990, when so many people told me that I'm wrong and so on, was reading Akira Morita's book, and he over there talks about the fact that he came to the States with a transistor and tried to sell it, and he's now meeting with a big company, distributor, and they asked him, they are impressed with the product, so they asked him about quote for 5,000 and 50,000 and $500,000. And he said, fine, I'll give it to you tomorrow. And he comes the next day and gives his quote. And this American guy is saying, I don't understand you at all. And Akira Morita is saying, what do you mean? And he said, look, I'm used to the fact that as I'm ordering bigger quantities, I'm getting lower price per unit. But you gave me one price per unit for 5,000. For 50,000, you increase the price. And for $500,000, your price is in the sky. What's happening here? And Akira Morita is telling him, what do you want? 5,000, I can deliver now, no problem. 50,000, I have to hire people. $500,000, I have to build a plant. I said, here is somebody that thinks straight, not cost accounting mumbo jumbo. But I did not realize until this last presentation to what extent Sony was built not just on the engineering, but on a real knowledge of the supply chain. Fellas, do you know what's happening now with Sony? Okay, let me give it to you, the whole story. And for that, I want to start for another shock that I got. First days of January of this year, 5 people from a nice Japanese company came to spend a week with me in my house in Holland, where we agreed to sit for a week and to design the whole implementation, the viable vision implementation. Within 5 minutes after we started to talk, I realized to what extent their mind is in totally different things. So I'm trying to understand what it is, and it became more and more clear that what they are asking me is actually how many people should they lay off. Now, wait a minute. That's not an American company. That's a Japanese company. What do you mean by how many people? Not whether or not we should lay off, but how many people should we lay off? And I couldn't really understand it at all. Let me show you what was standing behind it. You all know that in 2008, towards the end of it, we have suffered from a financial, let's call it meltdown. Super ultra sophistication in finance, exactly as predicted, have blown in our face. Big deal. By the way, there were enough people that was warning about it. So we had a financial crisis. But then the newspapers started to talk about economical crisis. And I couldn't understand it. So I thought that everyone will ignore what the newspapers are writing. So here I am in the first week of January with these very nice people. And I say, wait a minute, why are you so concerned? And then they told me, our orders dropped by 50%. Said, we've never seen such a thing. Yes, even when there was this big bubble of the high-tech blowing, the orders went down. They are in electronics. They're producing some type of electronic components. By the way, don't try to find out who is the company, because if you'll go on the internet and ask Japanese company producing electronic components, you will get 400 companies. Okay? And they said, our order book, 50% down. The maximum that we ever seen was over a period of 5 months, orders are dropping by 30%. 50% in 1 month, that's craziness. Now we have to do it. Look where do they stand. Their sales were going quite constantly up, but let's say very slowly. For years, as a matter of fact, something like 6 or 7 years. Now, comes November, it goes down. Comes December, and it's 50% down. And of course, the question is, what will happen in 2009? Who the hell knows? So what are the debates inside the company? Some are saying it will, who said that we've seen the end of it? It will continue to go down. Some are saying, no, that's the bottom. Some are saying, no, it must go up. Basically, the debate inside the company is, these are the options. Huge uncertainty. But look, whatever the option is, it's quite clear. If we want to survive, we have to reduce our expenses. And no wonder then that the question is, how many people should we? And regrettably, but what can we do? We have to lay off. Ladies and gentlemen, how would you go about answering such a question? Who can predict the future? Who can predict the future? We, if we just think. Because the first thing that I've said, wait a minute. Yes, your orders went down. Your orders from whom? You are producing component. You are selling them to the companies that produce electronic systems. These companies are selling it to whom? It's a consumer electronic goods. So they're selling it to wholesalers and retailers. They are not eating these goods. They're selling it to the end consumer. So the question was, fine, at the same period of this huge drop in December, how much sales went down from the shops? And I asked, how much sales went down in the shops? And the answer was, we don't know. Because you see, every link in a chain checks with the next chain, not to the end of the chain. Remember, we are very early in January. To get reliable numbers about December is not so easy. So we pull our strings. For example, we called our friends in Nikkei magazine. And we said, do you have any numbers about the sales of consumer electronics in December? And their answer we don't have the final numbers, but we have numbers from some of the chains. So they give us the number of the largest retail chain in Japan, and the number that they tell us is, and they told us, very funny, they say, but the sales in December in this chain in Japan was changed by 14% up. Shall I repeat again? Up, not down. And we said, are you sure? We said, we checked twice. And then we said, wait a minute, most of the sales of this company is not to Japan. They're selling in other countries. So let's check what happened to electronic consumer goods sales in the US. Because US was the source of the financial crisis. So if we want to see what is happening, let's check first of all in the US. They are the first one to be impacted. So we had to pull many more strings to find out what happened to consumer electronic sales in the US in December. And what we got is two things. One is there was something which was unprecedented in December in the US, which is almost all the chains gave big reduction in price for consumer electronics. Something around 25% throughout December, not after Christmas, but throughout the whole month. And this was never happening before. The second thing is that sales of consumer electronic in US in December went down by something like 2%, but in dollar value, which means the sales that went down is total dollars sold. By the way, let's look on it. If sales in dollars went down 2%, where on most goods there was a reduction of price of 25%, what does it mean in terms of sales in units? It went up. We check, that's the case. Everywhere. Now it's not a matter of guesses anymore. Now it's a matter of thinking. How can it be that the amount of goods sold by the retail to the consumer did not went down, and nevertheless the orders from the manufacturer component went down 50%? These are two numbers that we know, but now we have a dilemma, not a guesswork. How can it be? Now tell me, how can it be? Let's look on it. Let's do some assumptions. Like, for example, my first assumption is the people who run the shops are also reading newspapers and listening to the media. Good assumption? They are not in vacuum. So they are reading the same things that everybody is hearing, which is recession. If you are a retailer that sells consumer goods and you hear recession, what is your instinctive reaction? What is your biggest fear? To get stuck with old merchandise. Remember, in consumer electronic, how quickly you can get stuck with them, because every 4 or 5 months, the goods are changing. Is it understood? Yes or no? So what do? They have to reduce the inventories. Have to. How do they do it? One way is give big reduction price, get rid of it. Fine, we know that they've done it. What is the other way? What is the other way? Stop to order. Am I right? Or reduce at least the orders. So they reduce the orders on the companies that produce the systems. Now, these companies see a drop in their sales. They also read newspapers. So not only they drop their orders from the component manufacturer, they're also trying to reduce the inventories. So no wonder that as a component manufacturer, you have dropped, your order book have been dropped by 50%. In order to verify it, I've asked this gentleman You probably have done the same thing to your material supplier. Can you tell me by how much you have reduced your orders on your material suppliers? They've done some checks, the answer came back, 80% drop. Now you're reducing their inventories as well. Ha-ha. So now we know what is the source of this drop. So the question starts to be, what will happen in the future? Now we are in a position to start to answer it. Why? Retail still is in business. You reduce the inventories, but you didn't start from infinite inventories. So there must come a time that you will start to reorder. How much time? Depends on how much inventory you were holding. How much the retail in consumer goods is holding inventories, fellas, this is a mountain. It's more than 3 months, which looks crazy when you realize that the average life of the product is 4 months. Fine. 3 months. 1 month already huge sale, so 2 more months and they have to order. Correct or not? Must be. Now, to what level? To the level that they sell. How much will they sell? Where can you get an indication? Oh, there is a very good indication. It's called the forecast of the GDP of the country. Even though there is unknown in it, but still you know, all the forecasts were that the GDP of some countries will fall by 3%, 4%, some will go up by only 2%. In other words, few percent here or there. This means that it has to come back. Which means what is now the situation when you are thinking cause and effect? Hello. Unavoidably, correct or not? Yes or no? Would you consider laying off people under such a situation? You have to be out of your mind. Because in 2 months you will need them back. Next week, they didn't lay off anybody. But next week, a week after that, they told us the biggest competitor have laid off 35,000 people. And then I said, now you're in trouble. Why you're in trouble? Because when the demand comes back, the competitor cannot react, which means you will get part of his orders as well, and you are not ready for it at all. True, in April, the due date performance of the companies that I was talking to dropped from 90+% to almost 50% because the orders were swamping them. Ladies and gentlemen, it's so easy to focus if you do think cause and effect. But what is a real problem is, try to imagine what would have happened if retail would have held 2 weeks inventory rather than 4 months. We wouldn't have all this mumbo jumbo. Is it understood, yes or no? Now you start to understand why, when this happened, I started to squeeze on the gas to write, isn't it obvious? We are talking about a huge impact on millions and millions of people because of what? Because of these stupidities. Now let's tie it up back to what we see here, to the previous presentations that we heard, which was fantastic presentation. It's just shocking. Look, are you aware that electronic components becomes better and better and better? Bring yourself to the time that Sony was built, and you are talking about a transistor. Today, what is electronic component? How many transistors are within the same chip? The components itself become better and better and better. And because of it, without having genius engineering, you can produce better and better products. Am I right? What is the unavoidable result? If you will not produce a better product, your competitor will produce a better product because the chip is available. Due to that, what did we see in the last 30 years? The lifetime of the products. And what I'm talking about the lifetime, I'm talking about not how much time you can use the product until you cannot use it. I'm talking about a shop gets a new product, they're selling it. For how long can they sell the product until there comes a much better product, so the product that they sold before cannot be sold unless you reduce the price to the ground? What happened to the lifetime of the products? If you look 30 years ago, and let's take a nice electronic product like the PC computer. Do you remember the most popular PC 30 years ago? The IBM XT. What was the lifetime of that PC? 3 years. How much is the lifetime of a PC today? Not how much time you can use it, but from the minute that you sell it until now you have the PC, which is double the memory and double the disk for the same price. Something like 4 months. There is a tremendous shrink in the lifetime of the product. And this is happening in so many products. Are you aware of it? Yes or no? Of course all of you are aware of it. Now look what's happening. We have an external factor depending on time that is shrinking. Now you have to see what happens because of it to your internal factors of time. What is the longest time usually? Development of products. If the lifetime is 1 year and your development time is 2 years, this will mean what? That you're in trouble. Why? Because for a whole year, you will not have the best product out there, but your competitor. Is it understood? Yes or no? What do you do then? They try to shrink the development time. No, not everybody is as smart, so usually they couldn't shrink the development time. So what was the conventional solution eventually? Hold more than one development team. And today, in every large company, you have more than one development team working on different generations of the same product. This costs a fortune, but what can you do? So if the lifetime of the product is 6 months and the development time is 2 years, you will hold 4 generations in the pipeline. So you can release every 6 months a new product. That's what was done. Those that didn't do it died, even though they were excellent in any other aspect. The most startling example is digital computers. Do you remember that company? It was a fantastic company in every aspect, except for this. They died. Fine. The product life is continuing to shrink, continuing to shrink. And now it starts to clash with the next time parameter, which is the supply lead time of the whole supply chain. What happens when the lifetime of the product becomes smaller than the lead time of the supply chain? Now you're running into problem. Ladies and gentlemen, where is the majority of the lead time of the supply chain? It's not in manufacturing. It is in the wholesale and retail. As I told you, right now it's about 4 months. It's craziness. Are you with me? Fine? So look now what's happening. I'm a retailer. You're Sony, Panasonic, Canon. Okay? You came to me with a beautiful product. Really nice. I'm buying. Before I finish to sell all my stock, you are advertising the new product. Now I'm stuck. What do I do now? I will get rid of it whatever price, and I've lost my pence. So next time that you come with a product, I will say, I need bigger margins. Reduce the price. Reduce the price. Fine, you reduce the price. But you've done the same trick on me, and I've once again lost my pence. So now we'll say, price is not enough for me. If you do it again, and I'm getting stuck, you compensate for that, either by paying me for that or by taking the old product for full refund. Now it's your problem. Is it understood? Yes or no? Hello? You can be Sony. But if you continue to push into the retail and you think that you have sold just because you have got the money from the retail, I have a surprise for you. You haven't sold until the end consumer have sold. And that's where the rebate will come and the penalties of you come with another thing and you lose all your profit. Ladies and gentlemen, are you aware that that's what's happening now on a mammoth scale? And Sony is still pushing. It's so easy to really influence the retail and the wholesalers to hold much less inventories. It's their interest as well. They want higher inventory turns. But instead, we are still looking on this stupid cost accounting that doesn't take all of that into account at all, and we can bring even the largest companies to its knees. And that's what's happening. Am I right? Ladies and gentlemen, two things. One is, let's learn to look on the global picture. Not because it's nice, but because if we don't learn to look on the global picture, we can be killed. Local optima means also you're looking just on your company. It's still local optima. You have to look on the whole thing. Second thing is, why don't we learn to think cause and effect? And instead, we are following patterns without asking, even stupid patterns like cost accounting, even when we see that they are leading us directly to the wall. Why don't we learn to trust our brains and to do cause and effect? And then you see how easy it is to understand what's happening and what visibility do you get. How many presentations have you held this week? To what extent it's working if we just think correctly? Ladies and gentlemen, if we don't, it's not that we lose money. Money is just one aspect. We are playing with human life. We are playing here with human life. So my message, what is TOC? Focus. How to focus? Learn to think. Learn to question. Have the courage to look on reality as it is. Do cause and effects. Do predicted effects and check. Use the scientific approach. Take full responsibility for your environment, because what you've seen here is to what extent, even under the most turmoil situation, if a company prepared itself in terms of thinking, if the company continued to think, the company can cross through such time without blinking an eye, protecting not just itself, but its clients and its suppliers. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is one sentence that I hate, is, what do you want? It's not personal, it's business. Usually, this sentence is said when somebody has just put a knife into you. That's business. No, no, no. That's not business. And in business, you don't separate making money from being a mensch, from behaving properly and so on. More than that, it's about time to understand. If we think we'll make money and we'll be totally moral and will protect our people. If we don't think, it's just a matter of time until we will lose even the money. Let's use the biggest gift that was given to us, the ability to think. Let me finish my speech with something that maybe I shouldn't talk at all about, but still, I don't pray. In my vocabulary, praying is behaving like a spoiled, rotten little kid that got everything and still want more. We got the ability to think. We are put in reality which is exceedingly simple and harmonious with itself. And we got the freedom of choice. What else can we ask for? Shall I repeat it? We have the ability to think. We are put in exceedingly simple reality which is harmonious with itself, and we got the freedom of choice. Let's use our freedom of choice correctly. Thank you very much.